All right, boys. I finally have some time to work on the Z. So I don't have all the parts I need in quite yet, but I'm going to go ahead and let me turn this light on. Let me go ahead and take this this panel out and get all the vent hose routed. I have new hoses except for one I didn't get enough of. So and then I'm going to try to probably take this what do you call that? The I don't know what that would be, the canister or whatever. I'm going to take that out. I think there's a broken fitting on there, so I'll clean that up and then replace the hoses that I do have, and the one I don't, I'll just see if I can put the gas tank in tonight without it. So hopefully I can get the gas tank in, and then I can start getting the surge tank fitted with the new pump. The hoses are pretty straightforward. We're going to be upside down here. Basically, there's a 1/2-inch hose. Then this is I think this is the 5/8, which is I don't think I have enough of. We'll find out here in a second. This is the mystery one that has a broken off. That goes here somewhere, I think. And then we got this. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this off. Actually, no, I'll run the new hoses. I'm going to pull this off and then check it out. Try to fix this. And then I think I should be able to put the gas tank in even without the proper length. I got new hoses over here. These are all brand new, but what I accidentally ordered only 2 feet of this one, and I need at least 4 or 5 feet. So I have like 5 or 6 feet coming of that. And then it's 4 different hose sizes for one tank, which is kind of ridiculous. I don't know why they did that, but it's annoying, and I might as well just replace it as it was instead of messing around with it too much. All right, so I got this thing off. The broken fitting clearly goes right there. But you know, after looking at it, I think it's the return line or the evaporation, like emissions line, that went. It goes to a steel line, which goes to the front, and I think I just have that capped off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little pressure on it to see if anything blows through. If it doesn't, then that means it's the capped off line. It's clearly not the fuel line, and there's no return or there's no emissions that go back anymore. And if that's the case, then I'm just going to go ahead and plug this hole up here. Really, the reason I want to plug it is because this is in the cabin and it's going to be venting like fuel vapors into the cabin, which is probably why it always smelled like fuel in here. So I got some more hose, and I got some hose clamps, which I will hopefully have the right ones. And then on this thing, I did patch this with just with epoxy, metal epoxy, which works pretty well. So one thing I was thinking about though, since this is the top of the tank, I'm wondering if this is like a breather. So this hose goes up into the engine bay originally, which I had blocked off, but I'm wondering if this builds up with high pressure, this is like a breather. So I might have problems with like vapor lock or like vapor issues. So I'll have to keep an eye on that. If it is a problem, I'm gonna have to switch over to a vented fuel cap. Or I know some people just drill a little tiny hole in there, but I'll see if I can find a vented one. I forgot to mention one other thing I'm going to do. Since I took all the rubber and the fuel filler out of this, I'm going to go ahead and take the opportunity to tape this off. I'll probably tape off this inside part too, and then spray the whole. I'll kind of scuff it up and then spray it, probably just flat black. Since I am going to paint this thing, I don't want to have to take this apart again. I might as well just go ahead and do this part now. And since it's flat black, it'll pretty much go with anything. It'll look fine. But I really don't want this brown color to be showing up. While I'm waiting between coats here, I'm putting the sender unit back together here. So you can see here I coated the inside of this because it was leaking, and you know, sure enough, a little bit came out. But I filled this with water, and nothing else dripped out. So I think it's sealed. This is the aftermarket sender. This is just a generic sender I took apart, and so I cut the old one off here. And then I cut the brackets off the new sender that they came out here so it would fit in. And then I basically took this plastic thing off and bolted it in here, and then bolted this plastic thing down. So now we got travel here. I got this is the signal, and then it's grounded. So if you measure here, you get a nice ohm that changes very consistently. And then I'll just have to adjust my aftermarket gauge. You can cal it, you just do high and low, and then it kind of figures out from there. And then the other thing here is just on this, I went ahead and notched this out a little bit, so the set screw will fit in there and it won't pop out, which looks like it goes in there nice. So I'll just tighten this down. And I already fitted this, so I know it goes in the tank, and I know that this isn't going to hit anywhere. But this is ready to go in. I'll just double check that the ohmage here is, now that I've put it back together, I'll verify that it still works right. But besides that, this just saved me about $10 just doing it like this instead of getting a replacement sender. All right. We are finally back on this thing. Holy cow, it's been a long spring. So I got the fuel tanks about ready to go in. I got the pads back on it. I just used epoxy to glue them back on. I even painted the straps here black. I'm not sure how this is going to look with this gray underneath. Hopefully it doesn't look too bad, but there is silver on the muffler, which is a different silver. It might look kind of weird. I got the fuel filler neck back in. I painted inside here like I said I would. Got the new hoses in. They all run up. And then I have the vapor tanks back in. You probably can't see it because of the light over there, but there's a vapor tank in there. Yep. And then new hoses all the way around. And then the vent hose, I did deletes, and I plugged the hole in the frame with it, so there's not going to be water splashing up in there. So I'm going to go ahead and put this fuel tank in, and then I'm going to start, we're going to start measuring where all the surge tank and all the hoses and the new fuel pump are going to go. Alright, it's kind of up in the place where it needs to go. I have a fair amount of clearance in here. This is actually pretty nice. So I'm going to go ahead and get this hose in and then get this all the way up and strap it down, and then we're going to take a look at it, make sure everything looks good. Alright, it took a little bit of finagling, but I got the fuel tanks in now. And all the hoses are in, and oh, hi dog. Okay. All the hoses are in. So I think now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this stock, I think this is the stock, kind of like the protector for the stock fuel pump if it had the fuel pump option, which I think was only in Japan if I remember reading that right years ago. Because this wiring's all stock. So anyways, I'm going to pull that, I'm going to pull the fuel pump, and then I'm going to kind of probably use some cardboard or something to get an idea of the space that I have to work with and see if I can actually fit everything in there. If not, I'm going to have to probably put it in the wheel well, which I don't really want to do. So hopefully this works. We'll go ahead and pull that, and then we're going to see what we have on the bench here. So this is the space we have to work with. Not a lot, but there is space there. I had like a spacer bracket to fit around the mustache bar here, so the fuel pump sat back a little bit. Because that is kind of in the way. I forget why. I think I had to move it back because I put an R200 rear end in instead of the original R180. So over here we kind of got what we need to put in here. So this fitting is going in the bottom of the fuel tank. Then we're going to have a filter. This is the lift pump, which will pull from the tank and put it into the surge tank. And then we got the main pump, which is the high pressure pump. So that'll pull from the bottom of the surge tank. And then this is going to go out to the fuel line. So on the fuel line it's steel back into about here, and then it is rubber. I found my flaring kit here, so I'm going to go ahead and cut the steel barb off. And then I got some of these. So this will be a screw fitting. I'll reflare it out. I'll put this on and then I'll reflare it. And then I think, let's see if I can find it here. I thought I ordered this, but let's just check. This one? Yeah, it's this one. So this is going to, let me show you real quick here. All right, so this is going to screw into here with the fuel line. And then this is now an AN fitting. So then I'll be all AN hoses all the way back from the steel fuel lines. All right, well, I'm almost done getting everything set. I've changed my plans like 5 times while I was doing this. So here it actually looks from the side. I don't have one of the pumps in yet, but I think I know where it's gonna go. But let me just show what we got underneath here. All right, so underneath here, we got the surge tanks mounted directly to the floor underneath, and then the main fuel pump is mounted to the this is the spare tire well, and then the other pump is gonna fit in up where this flashlight is right here. It's gonna fit up in this area. It's gonna be mounted to this cross member coming straight down. I think there's enough space between the mustache bar and the cross member for it to hang down. So if you look up in here, there is this blue fitting right here is actually quite a bit higher than the return fitting. So that should all fit. I got 90-degree angle fittings for that. It's going to be hard to get them up in there, but I think I can do it with that pole in the fuel tank. So I'm going to take this pump out and get those lines run down. The plug right there isn't in, but it'll fit in. This is not touching like here. It's not touching the mustache bar. It's not touching this pump. So I think this is a good spot for it. This is a good spot for this pump. And then the other one, I'll show in a sec when I hang it here. But just to show on the inside, so right here is for the pump, and I just welded in 2 captive nuts. And then this is for the pressure or the surge tank. I welded in 2 nuts here. I kind of had to grind the rubber stuff down, and then I'll find some bolts here that are so they'll be more flush with this nut, so that it won't poke up through the carpet. But besides that, I mean, you could even run a spare tire in here. Probably, I don't think they would hit these nuts. I won't, but you could. So anyway, it's gonna be very, very tight in there, but I think I'm almost there. Let's get the other pump hung, and then we'll see what it looks like, and then I'll start working on the hoses. All right, surge tank is out while I put in this lift pump. So I've mounted it here. These are actually the stock 2 bolt holes for the stock. Like there was a bracket here originally. I think I had to modify it because this mustache bar is bigger. But anyway, there's about 2 millimeters of clearance between this and the bar. It might still hit under load. This bar might shift around, so we'll see how that does. But then get the pump in here. So the pump, I got scared for a second because it's hitting here, but you can actually rotate this thing. I can move these to these other holes, so it should just barely fit here. And it actually works better because then the outlet will come here to the surge tank, and then the inlet will come from the fuel body. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that pump mounted, and then see what we have left here. All right, so the lift pump is in. I had to rotate it another like 45 degrees to get the fittings to clear the mustache bar, but it's in there. I'm a little worried though, so I'm worried it's gonna hit the this thing. So I'm gonna go ahead, and I got the jack here. I'm gonna compress this to see if it's gonna hit. So far looking good. I think we're gonna be good there. There's still about 3 inches, and this thing's mostly compressed. Okay, so that's about full compression. We got tons of space. It's clear in the drive line, so I think we're good. So I think we got the final mounting position of everything, and we are good to do the final mounting. Actually, no, we're gonna have to. Getting all the hoses cut is gonna take a little bit mounting and remounting. So I think I'll do the hoses first for the inlet into here, the lift pump, and then the outlet of the other pump to the main fuel line, and then I will finagle in the surge tank one. So I'll do the surge tank last, but what's in here right now, there's plenty of room to work right now, so I'll do that first. I'm almost done here. I've done what, 4 out of 6 lines. I got everything mounted. Well, everything's not mounted right now, but we'll get into there in a sec and look at it. Yeah, it's actually coming together. It's a little bit messy under there. But this is what we got here. So this is the gas tank. We got our outlet here, which I'm a little bit worried about it being low, and it's going up to the fuel filter. And I'll probably put like just a hose clamp here to hold this in place. I think that'll hold it. We'll see. I mean, these hoses are pretty rigid. So anyway, that goes to the lift pump here, and I had to rotate it this way because otherwise the fittings would hit the mustache bar mount. So that goes there, and this goes into the surge tank up here. And these fittings are all tightened right now, so everything's tightened up. And then there's another fitting up there. Let me get a light over here. Let's see this. There's this other fitting here which comes as the overflow, which goes back into the fuel tank onto this bung I welded here. Alright, well, it's been like a month and a half, I think, since I started this thing, since the last video, but it's all in here. I'm going to look at it from this side first, and then I'll switch over from underneath so you can see what it looks like. But the last thing I really have to do down here is just get some conduit on this wire. It's just wrapped up right now, but I'll put some conduit on it and kind of tuck it up out of the way so it doesn't get damaged. But it's all in here. It's all wired up. So from the side here, I mean, everything's going to clear. I had to make 6 fuel lines, but nothing's touching, nothing's rubbing. I didn't even have to make any new brackets or anything. It was all pretty much, I only just had to drill the holes for the surge tank and the one of the fuel pumps. All right, so it is kind of a rat's nest in here of fuel line, but so here we go. I'll just run through this again. We got from the bottom of the fuel tank is going to the this fuel filter, which is going to this fuel pump. This fuel pump needs to be mounted like this because the fuel actually cools it, so it's recommended to mount it like this. And this is the lift pump, so it's going to pull the fuel up and then push it into the surge tank here. This is a 1 liter surge tank, and you can see back here there's 2 fittings up here. So it's pushing into one of the fittings to fill this tank up, and then the other fitting is an overflow, which comes and goes into the fuel tank's original pickup line. So this is a AN fitting here now that I've welded in, and it pours into there as it fills up, which it'll almost always be full, hopefully. And then coming out of here is this line, which goes into the main pump. And this is now an ideal situation. Before this pump was mounted above the fuel tank. This pump, you want it to mount it below where it's pulling. So it's pulling from below, so it doesn't have to do any work where it sucks it in. And then it blows it out through here up to, let me get the light up here, up to the factory fuel fitting, which, get the shadow out of the way, is up there. So I did a double flare fitting and an AN connection. So no fuel lines, I've kind of gone through everything. No fuel lines are touching. They're all pretty rigid. I did use, there's a bracket up here. I can't really see it, but where it connects to the OEM line, there's a bracket up there that I'm reusing, so it's not rubbing. But everything's in here. Everything's pretty solid. Nothing's kinked. Nothing's touching. It barely fits in here. So like if I wanted to take this all out of here, basically you have got to remove all the lines, and then you can get to the fuel pumps. You can get the surge tank at that point. So a lot of cable making, but no real fabrication was required to do this. I mean, I had to do a couple mods, like on this tank I had to cut the corner off so it would fit right here without touching anything. It looks like it's probably touching the mustache bar, but there's about 3 millimeters of clearance up here. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm gonna put some gas in the tank. I'm gonna pressurize it, make sure there's no leaks. If you've ever done these AN fittings before, these things are pretty reliable. I mean, I've never had an issue with them leaking. If you look at how they're kind of put together, it's really hard to make them leak. I mean, they're hard to make, but they don't leak. I see this popped off. These fittings, these electrical connections kind of pop off easily. So yeah, I'm going to pressurize it. I'm going to end the video here, but I'm going to go ahead and pressurize it. I'm going to clean up my carb. And then the next video is going to be me starting it, taking it for a test drive. And then I'll probably... Anyway, I'm going to end the video there. This has been a long time coming. I've been working on this for, what, 3 months, 4 months? You know, not really a lot of work because I don't have much time, but it's really starting to come together here. I'm almost done. So stay tuned.